What's up, you guys? My name is Aaron Oster. I am a #1 best-selling author on Amazon, and welcome to the channel, where we like to talk about, and by we, I mean I, like to talk about all things fantasy-related, whether they're horrible parodies about real-world things, or just how to write books, or how to get started publishing, or literally anything that I'm going to talk about. Anyway, before we get into today's video, let's just address the elephant in the room. Yes, my hands are all wrapped up like I got into a backstreet brawl with a gang sent by the bear on their shirt because he's pissed that I killed him. But anyway, no, I did not get into a fight, but that would have been way cooler than having carpal tunnel from whacking away on a keyboard like a maniac all day. But since we're talking about fighting, I may as well make today's video about how to write fight scenes in your fantasy books, because believe it or not, those are some of the most important scenes in your entire book. It draws the reader in, it makes them interested in what you've got to say, and if you write a boring fight scene, they're going to throw your book away like it's made out of hot garbage. So with that said, destroy the like button, ring the notification bell, subscribe, and let's get right into it. So to start things off, we're going to first talk about why fight scenes are so important. While dialogue and reading about the world and the characters and everything that's happening to them is always interesting, the climax of the book always ends up in some sort of fight scene. Now, the reason that fight scenes are used so often is because they're exciting, they're fast-paced, they pull you in, and they really keep you staring at the pages of that book all the way through to the end. If you're in the middle of reading something about how the characters are traveling down a long dusty road and having a conversation about the pansies growing on the side over there, chances are you're not going to have a very hard time putting that book down. But if you're in the middle of reading a scene between an epic fight between the main character and the quintessential villain of the series, chances are you're not going to drop that book right in the middle of the fight scene, because you need to know what's going to happen. That is your job as an author. You have to make it interesting enough to keep people entertained, to make them not want to put that book down all the way until the end. Now, I'm sure many of you are wondering, how do I write a fight scene?
I don't know anything about fighting.
My mom says fighting is bad.
Well, let me tell you something. There are no moms, or at least ones that actually care, in fantasy writing. You know what? Let me reiterate that. There are moms in fantasy writing, but a lot of the time they're dead. Or they're wholly for the protagonist fighting. But moms aside, the question is, how do you write a fight scene? How do you structure it to make it interesting? How do you keep the pacing good to keep the reader's interest? And how do you know that you've either written it too long or not long enough? So right now I'm going to break it down in a couple of easy steps. How to pace your fighting scene, how to write it. I'm going to give you some examples of some terrible fighting scenes. I'm going to give you some examples of some pretty okay fighting scenes. So first up is the pacing of your fight scene. How do you pace your fight scene out to make it interesting enough that your readers are going to want to stick around? So the most important thing that I found with a fight scene is that you always start it off slowly. Don't jump right into it. Don't go from a standstill to 100 miles an hour. What you want to do is slowly kind of build into it and then start ramping it up as the fight goes along. You know, have the character come in, they exchange a few punches, just sort of feeling each other out. You watch any sort of mixed martial arts fight, that's normally how fights begin. Most fighters don't come out of the gate swinging to knock the other guy's head off. And when you're writing a fight scene, you should not be doing that either. Now, on the other hand, once you've ramped up that fighting scene and things are really intense, buildings are being destroyed, people are running and screaming, and there's general destruction and mayhem, you have to know when to finish that fight scene off. Otherwise, it's just going to feel long, drawn out, and completely unnecessary. So the question is, when do you cut that fight scene off? The answer is very, very simple. When you are at the climax, the highest point of the fight, where the coolest things are happening, like the biggest attacks from your characters are all going on, that is when you want to end it. You don't want to end it after your readers have started to lose interest. You want to end it before your readers are even satisfied. If they want that fight scene to go on longer, you know that you've done a good job. You want to cut it off before they start thinking it's gone too long, not after. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys are thinking,
But what do you mean? Why should I cut it off before they're satisfied? Won't my readers be all angry? You should just throw your laptop out the window, give up on being an author, and just quit.
and to that, I will once again say,
No.
okay, so now like I promised, I am going to read you off a very bad example of a fight scene, followed by a better example of a fight scene. So, here we go. Keith punched Bob,
Ow!
said Bob. Bob punched him back,
That was mean.
said Keith. Then they started a slap fight and fell to the ground. They rolled around a little. Bob won. Now, aside from the terrible writing of that fight scene, there is a very simple reason why it was horrible. There were no exciting words used, no descriptors as to how they were fighting, and it just felt completely flat because neither of the characters sound very interesting. They also sound like they have no idea how to fight, which is what your readers are going to pick up on if you're writing a fight scene that falls completely flat. So, now that we've gotten the horrible fighting scene out of the way, I'm going to try and give you a better one. Keith launched himself forward, catching Bob with a powerful right hook. Bob cried out in pain, staggering back and clutching at his jaw.
You'll pay for that, you little dweeb.
Bob said, spitting to the side.
I'd like to see you try.
Keith replied, a cocky grin plastered on his face. Bob shuffled forward, fists raised and threw a feint, causing Keith to flinch back. He then followed up by striking out at his knee, his shin colliding with the side of Keith's leg and nearly succeeding in breaking the limb outright. Now it was Keith's turn to cry out in pain. Now, don't ask me why they suddenly have horrible British accents. I was bored and wanted to try something else. But that's basically an example of a more exciting fight scene. You're being more descriptive, using more synonyms. You're using different words for things. And you're basically grabbing your reader's attention with those in-your-face type of words. Don't need the characters to say,
Ow! That hurts!
all you gotta do is describe it. The big thing in writing, or so I've heard, is show and not tell. So that means show that the person is in pain, but there is no specific need to point out that they are in pain. It's the same thing with throwing punches. If you use words like slammed instead of punched, a lot more exciting. If you say Keith slammed his fist into Bob's face, it's a lot more exciting than hearing Keith punched Bob in the nose. I don't know why, but I'm sure that one of those sentences probably sounds a bit more exciting than the other one. And one last tip in case you're having a hard time visualizing the fight scenes. You know what? Actually, two last tips. The first thing that you can do is get up there and play a video game. Today, the Ghost of Tsushima came out on PS4, and I am very excited because I love action RPG games. They are so motivating. They give me so many new ideas for cool ways to fight, new ways to innovate in the genre, and just really get some inspiration for a fight scene. You know, I definitely recommend, for me personally, my favorite game of all time is Monster Hunter World, followed by God of War. I love all the Assassin's Creed games, and I would definitely recommend you go give Ghost of Tsushima a try, because it is a really cool game. But that aside, if you're not a gamer, you can always get up, mime the moves yourself, and see if they'll work. Yes, I might have a bit of an advantage there, because I have taken many years of martial arts, but even if you haven't, it's very easy to just get up, throw a punch, start a slap fight, whatever works for you, whatever you're trying to write, get up, do it in front of a mirror. I know you look like an idiot, but it doesn't matter because the readers can't see what you're doing. So with all of that said, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please subscribe, like the video, comment down below with your thoughts, ring the notification bell too. Go follow me on Instagram. I post a whole bunch of cool art stuff on there, none of which is mine, by the way. Just making that very, very clear because for some reason people seem to think I draw. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed and I will see you back next time.